If there's one thing I've noticed about modern Western game creation is that they keep repeating the same cycles. Halo, Call of Duty, Forza, Doom, and more. The same ideas made over and over again, either working or not, doomed to repeat themselves. I want to start with Halo Campaign Evolved, and then I want to move this video into the broader discussion of all modern Western games as a framework. Cool? Alright, let's get into it. Firstly, as GameRant shows here, Halo Campaign Evolved is now getting review bombed as if this game needed any more problems. Now, the users out here are voicing their concerns another way by burying Microsoft's most important IP to the bottom of the sea. As they say it here, Halo's player reviews are way below that of the game's journalists to, well, nobody's surprise, people are voicing their opinions on the desecration of Halo. Because it's the only way they can, and I don't blame them one bit. You can call it toxic all you want. If you buy something with your hard-earned money, your opinion on something matters. Whether it's positive or negative, it just is how it is, and people are doing just that, which is what I love about the internet. You can't really protect yourself if the public hates you, and when it comes to games, no matter how much defense the journalists try to do, the voice of actual paying customers is always going to matter the most. Which is why for me on Metacritic, the critic score is there, sure, but the real score for me is always the user score. As Metacritic shows here, Halo is sitting at an 80 for journalists, a 5.5 for users, so the 5.5 is the real score then. Arguably, the user score is going to have more reviews than the critics, and some will say, but anyone can leave a score on user scores, and yeah, exactly why that matters. It means that people can voice their opinions through that score. It's a good thing actually. If the game is good, that score will be high too. For example, look at Elden Ring's Metacritic, 96 from the critics but an 8.4 from users. Good, that's a great score. It means people actually like the game, so that's a score that you can trust because the users gave it. Halo getting annihilated by its own fans is a good sign of things to come. It means that people are now not afraid to voice their opinions anymore. And I hope that everybody watching this leaves more user review scores on anything they watch, they play, or whatever else that it is. Your voice matters, your opinion matters. The websites will say that it doesn't, but they're wrong. You dictate what games get made by buying them too. And these are just direct reflections of that. Never really let anyone else tell you otherwise. As GameRant shows here, users are review bombing Halo over a multitude of problems, from the performances and cutscenes being worse than the original, Unreal Engine 5 being, well, Unreal Engine 5, I'm honestly sick of that engine outside of a very few select games that actually use it at this point, and stuff like the game having Microsoft sign-in nonsense, no multiplayer, and tons of bugs. And guess which version of Halo doesn't have bugs in multiplayer? Oh, the original Bungie one that they made over 20 years ago. Wow, almost as if it could have just re-released that on PlayStation or something. I don't know, could just be an idea. But GameRant says here that Halo Studios won't be changing anything from these controversial choices. All they can do is address the bugs so the problems otherwise stay as they are. So the user sentiment is rock solid at this point. Halo's cooked and good riddance. But using Halo as a springboard here now, I want to take the absolute state of this game and place it under the microscope while looking at other games like it that have released or will soon to be releasing as well. You see, Halo as a remake existing is a symptom of a very, very big problem with modern AAA. That being the safe reboot and taking little to absolutely no risks at all when it comes to making new games. After all, the very existence of a remake of a classic like Halo proves this. Why spend money making a new Halo game when you can take what Bungie made, smear your crap all over it, and pretend that it's a new game to sell to people for more money than they could just buy the original game right now on Xbox or PC? Look, it's Halo. It's everything you love, except, well, not really. Also, we erased Bungie's design philosophy and made everything worse. Also, there's brutes in the game now for some reason, and needlers of all things have ammo counts. What do you mean the ammo counter was the physical needles in the needler? Come on, this is modern gaming, okay? Players now need a bladed bar going down to know the difference. Anyways, pivoting from Halo for a second, but staying within the same space as Microsoft-owned studios, we have Doom: The Dark Ages. A game that didn't perform the way that Xbox or id was hoping for, and it led to layoffs. Now, id Software, the makers of Doom, are apparently being reduced as a studio to be about the same size as they were when they first made Doom 2016. That's about 100 people being laid off effective immediately, but according to id Software's producer, the existence of a Halo remake, of really any game that plays it safe, is because of the culture and worldviews of the people in charge that dictate the games industry as a whole. As PC Gamer said it here, id Software producer says you'll never get another World of Warcraft or Morrowind in the current climate in the wake of Xbox layoffs. So this comes from Andrew Willis, who's a producer at id Software that has obviously worked on the Doom games, effectively effectively calling his employer the worst thing imaginable on LinkedIn for the future of video games because of the stranglehold that they have on creativity and design. Here's what Andrew Willis said via LinkedIn about the absolute state of Xbox. I think the only way to fix the video game industry at this point is for developer-owned studios to start rising from these studio closures and layoffs. We've got to learn from the past, be fiscally responsible, and create an environment of sustainable growth, though growth should be a byproduct of success, not a goal in and of itself. He said more, "It's the only path forward I can see, and these large publishers and monopolies have proven themselves terrible stewards and somehow even worse financial managers. If the people who create the value own that value, good things will follow." What Andrew is insinuating is that places like a Microsoft and by proxy Xbox, you can apply this also to PlayStation as well, by the way, is that these places are not really in the business of fostering games that actually value creativity, so much so as just pushing for revenue targets and, let's just call it what it is, safe bets. Again, this is why your Halo remake exists. It's not because the people out here are itching for a remake of Halo Combat Evolved, especially when the original game plus the anniversary remaster already existed. It's simply because all these big companies can do these days is take something that you love, just remix it or repackage it and send it back out in worse shape than it was before and hope that you're stupid enough to buy it again for even more money. In Andrew and id Software's case, I beat the modern Doom games. I recently beat Dark Ages expansion, Revelations. It was mostly good, not mind-blowing, but it was fun at least. I didn't care much about some of the puzzles. I wanted to just blast more demons and gear my Slayer more, but all in all, it was fine for what it was. But it still wasn't enough, because when Revelations came out, id Software had their layoffs the literal day before that expansion actually released. So many of the people who made that expansion that Microsoft was now going to profit from were no longer at the studio anyways to celebrate the thing they just spent time making. It's kind of bleak, isn't it? Andrew said more via LinkedIn. The games industry must change if it is going to create art and franchises that have long-term sustainable value. Right now, it feels like the monopolies that control it are simply trying to extract as much goodwill and value that took decades to build as they can with little concern for the diminishing returns it's leading to. Wow, Andrew, you literally just explained Halo Campaign Evolved to a T. Perfectly. Exactly right though. Halo, like everything else, was built on goodwill by Bungie, not Xbox. And what did they do with it? Alright, they ruined it for profit. But ironically, the profits were actually better when OG Bungie was in control of the IP. It's almost as if Andrew knows what he's talking about or something. What's that? Let passionate game developers make amazing games and don't let corporate slob people interfere? No, that can't be. After all, that can't work. What do you mean Bungie made 5 Halo games in a row that were mega sellers because of that very same thing? But I was told that corporate knows best. Wow, it's almost as if it's all a ruse. That's what Xbox did with Halo either way. They took Bungie's goodwill, pretended like it could continue without them, spoilers it didn't, and they released half-baked release after half-baked release. Until eventually the goodwill got so badly used, they name-swapped the studio into Halo Studios, called it a new beginning. Again, it wasn't a new beginning, and now you got a remake that sucks that spits on the legacy of the original game. But don't worry, it has a girl boss in it now, because that's what Halo needed. Not crossplay multiplayer functionality so we could play, because nobody cares about that apparently, Xbox thinks anyways. But Andrew said more. This is what happens when the people who control it, mostly Ivy League Masters of Business Administration's degrees, do not play games, have never shipped a game, and fundamentally do not understand the industry they manage. You'll never get another World of Warcraft or Morrowind in the current climate. I agree mostly with Andrew here. I do think you do need to love video games to at least some degree to understand them in a marketing sense, but you also do need people who understand business. However, in Xbox's case, with what they've been doing with Halo, Doom, Call of Duty, it proves they kinda don't know what to do anymore. They're sort of just making things up as they go and hoping for the best. If that wasn't the case, then the layoffs wouldn't have happened in July like they did, because it was a literal bloodbath, as we all now know. It got so bad that Microsoft also had to sell off companies that they paid literal millions of dollars for, because the games being made and how long it took made no more sense. Ninja Theory, Double Fine, Compulsion Games, just to name a few. Yet despite this, Halo Studio still exists, which has been limping for a very long time now. I think the idea that we won't get another WoW or Morrowind, yeah, he's right there though. You likely won't see the next games of that level of importance out of modern AAA because of how they design their games now. Everyone just copies each other. Oh, they made a Souls-like or like an open world shooter game? Well, now we have to do that too. Oh, they're doing Battle Pass nonsense and media tie-ins with Fortnite. Well, how can we we do that in our games? Seriously, look at stuff like Destiny 2. They never had that. Then Fortnite did it. Now they have crossovers with Mass Effect, Star Wars, even PlayStation IPs. This sort of thing is normalized because they think it makes them easy money. But the actual mega hitters are always coming from a certain space that AAA keeps ignoring, the AA indie space. Stuff like Hollow Knight, Silksong, Palworld, Windrose, or stuff like the soon-to-be, Knight's Path and more all have something in common. They're not AAA games. I mean, even the concept of a Battle Royale game, for example, did not originate with Fortnite. No, it existed in smaller indie games. They created the idea first, then AAA took the idea and then drained it for all that it was worth. Halo, in a similar sense, was a AAA game made in the mindset of an indie game. Halo was really weird. You're a big green guy with a computer lady in your head, shooting colorful aliens on a ring world, and there's a silver ball that wants to end your entire species. It didn't work in a similar sense to how games function even now. There was no out-of-bounds systems. There was no pre-order bonuses or nonsense that really doesn't matter. It was just a video game that was made by people who were passionate about making it. And because of that passion came originality, and the profits naturally came too. Halo now is like a hamster that's been dead for 10 years, still spinning on its wheel in its cage. It's just the velocity of the corpse that keeps the wheel spinning, but the thing is long dead, man. If Halo Studios were actually confident in their future as the de facto makers of Halo, would they really be remaking Bungie's classics now? They would instead be making their own Halo games with their own characters and stories and figuring out a path forward to rival or even surpass Bungie's epics. But what are they doing instead? Right, remakes. Why is that? Well, the answer is simple. They are remaking Halo 1, probably through Reach, for a very, very simple reason. Well, two actually. The first is, it's easy money, baked in nostalgia. We all understand that. You know what to expect already from a Halo 1 or 2 remake because you played them already. But the other reason, and this is key, is as to why Halo or 343 doesn't want you to realize, and same with Xbox, they're remaking Halo because it buys them time. Every game is going to take a few years to be fully remade. That gives the leadership at the struggling Halo Studios to spend more time figuring out what they are going to do in the future. It's very, very clear that they do not have a plan that is set in stone. That's why Halo 2 Remake is coming, because it buys them more time to figure it out. It also, in theory, keeps the studio alive if people just keep buying the games blindly, even if they suck or lack soul. So Microsoft doesn't put them on the chopping block like they did id Software and many more. But this is really just putting a band-aid on a gaping wound that is terminal at this point. Halo Studios and their leadership clearly do not understand Halo if they so evidently didn't understand the bones and meat of what Bungie was making there in the first place. It's sort of like when you see the American remake of a classic movie made overseas, half the time the remakes pale in comparison. A good example is Oldboy. The remake is terrible. How do you mess up a remake when the source material is right there for you to mine and copy? Simple, because it doesn't matter how crystal clear the blueprint is if the people involved don't understand the point of what they're remaking in the first place. Halo needs a future, as does Doom and many, many others. Hell, Call of Duty even fights with this every year. How do you reasonably make a new Call of Duty game every single year on the clock and ensure that it's fresh and exciting? It's almost frankly impossible. Black Ops 7 was so poorly received, it resulted in probably one of the biggest backlash periods in Activision's and Call of Duty's entire history. Ironically, another company owned by, you guessed it, Microsoft, just like Halo. Black Ops 7 went so poorly for them, they confirmed that they're never going to do sequels back to back anymore. So this year, we're getting Modern Warfare 4. Why? Simple, because you know what Modern Warfare is. You know what the name means. Oh, that's Captain Price, right? I know who that is. I know what this means. So you buy it just like you did Halo Campaign Evolved. Activision even is resting on the name recognition of a game in Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare from 2007, right? Almost 20 years ago now. And Modern Warfare, like a Halo, let's be real, are the new Modern Warfare games as good as the original Modern Warfare trilogy that Infinity Ward made back in the day? My honest answer is no. They couldn't even do the No Russian mission the same way in the remake trilogy because Activision bowed to the modern sensibility nonsense of Western games journalism. So instead of falling into hot water with them, they just watered everything down. And Modern Warfare 3, the remake I mean, was considered one of the lowest points for Call of Duty in the modern era. Let's go look at the remake that Modern Warfare 3's Metacritic score is seen here, 56. The user score is at a 2.5. Funnily enough, actually, the original Modern Warfare 3 has a user score of 4, which is also not good, as you can see here. So it's pretty obvious that the wheels on that gravy train were already starting to teeter off the track. But Activision hasn't taken the time to really get Modern Warfare, in a similar way to how Halo Studios refuses to understand what made Halo special. Instead, all you're going to be getting are these games wearing skin suits, hoping that you buy them anyways. Who cares what's in the game? Look, it's Captain Price in Call of Duty. Just forget that the previous Modern Warfare was awful and was historically leaked to be an expansion that was Frankenstein into a full game. Just like with Halo, look, it's Master Chief. Ignore the fact that Cortana looks like Germa and why we erased NPCs to replace them with diversity. Just shut up and buy it already. Don't you want more Halo games? Stop being a hater. Add it to the cart. But many didn't do that, hence the review bombing. It's clear that a modern AAA, as that Andrew guy from id Software said, they don't care about fostering these franchises. All it's really about is making sure that we have the brand recognition that took decades to build so that we can just mine it for some more money. It doesn't matter if Modern Warfare 4 sucks like the third one did, because we get to put the name Modern Warfare on the box, and that's all these people are going to care about anyways. Halo's the same way. They're just going to be dangling Master Chief like he's jingling keys in front of a toddler. Look, it's Master Chief. You know who that is. That's right. Come on, get closer. Now just add it to the cart. Okay, add your credit card. That's good. Now hit purchase, wait for it to go through, and done. You see, the problem with Western developers, at least, is that what built these great franchises, be it Halo, Call of Duty, Doom, or more, was something called institutional knowledge. You had dudes who knew what they were doing. They were complete nerds that were making these games, and it was glorious. And when these dudes, like the OG Bungie guys, or people like Vince Zampella with COD, God rest his soul by the way, were making games, you had franchises that people could latch onto and love. The problem was that a lot of these dudes left the games industry behind, or these companies at the very least, and they took their knowledge, passion, and expertise with them. And then these companies, ran by business people, just threw a bunch of bodies at an IP they owned and went, just go and make something. But they don't have the knowledge of how to make that game, right? That's why there's not as many new franchises coming out of the West these days. Once in a while, we may get something like a Claire Obscure maybe, but largely speaking, AAA these days is just sequels and remakes because they lost a ton of that knowledge. That's what the Andrew id Software guy is insinuating. That's why you'll never get another Morrowind or WoW or Halo or Call of Duty, right? Because the way the West works with games currently is they do not value or cultivate any of their talent, and it shows. They just use them like they're tubes of toothpaste. They are squeezing them as hard and as often as they can till there's nothing left in the packaging. And once the paste has been squeezed, what do? They toss it away. They lay them off. They look desperately for the next thing that they can squeeze for even more revenue or ideas. Whereas in other companies, like in Japan, look at Shigeru Miyamoto, the guy who made a Mario and Zelda. Where has he been his entire life in video games? Oh, at Nintendo. You mean the entire time he's been in the games industry? Wow, it's almost as if his institutional knowledge is invaluable or something to Nintendo, so they made sure to treat him so he would stay with them. Why do you think Konami hasn't been able to make a new Metal Gear Solid game despite owning all the technology, the IP, or the assets that have been involved with every game in that series at their fingertips? Because they fired Hideo Kojima, that's why. But what did they do when they had everything built for them? Right, they made Metal Gear Survive, an abomination of a game. And what have they been doing since with Metal Gear Solid? Well, they remade Snake Eater, which also proves my point, but what else is coming? Right, they have remaster collections of all the games that Hideo Kojima and his team created in the series. But where's an actual new Metal Gear Solid game? Well, that will likely never be made because those games can only exist if Hideo Kojima, you know, the guy who made the IP, steers that ship of that franchise. So Konami, like Halo Studios, are doing the exact same thing. They remade Snake Eater. They're probably going to remake the original Metal Gear Solid next, then the second one, then the fourth one. I'm guessing probably Peace Walker, and eventually, like 20 years from now, we're going to get a Phantom Pain remake as well. But a new Metal Gear Solid game, like genuinely new, Metal Gear Solid 6, probably never will exist ever again. And Konami, like Halo Studios, would rather just remake these classic games because it also does, say it with me guys, buys them time. Of course it does. That's what it's all about. A new Metal Gear can't be made because Konami lacks the institutional knowledge that is required to make a proper new Metal Gear Solid game. Now, if I can go crazy for a minute, probably at some point in the future, you're going to have AI technology that gets so strong that Konami will probably somehow download Kojima's consciousness to an AI program and just keep Kojima as a digitized version of himself in the basement of their corporation. And they're going to run AI Kojima long after he's dead, who speaks through a screen to Konami and tells him how to make the next Metal Gear Solid game. It sounds crazy dystopian, but honestly, the way technology is going, I fully expect this to become a reality eventually across everything. Maybe Microsoft, once AI tech gets good enough, they can just copy the consciousness of the original Bungie devs and force them to make a new Halo game for them one day too. It'll be the ghost of Marty O'Donnell 50 years from now composing new Halo music as Steve Downes the voice of Master Chief, now a digital slave of Xbox, voices the Chief long after his passing too. It sounds incredibly bleak, but I seriously do see stuff like this happening unironically in the future. We might even get to a point where if some political leader becomes too beloved, they're going to digitize them too. And countries will just be ran by robot algorithm versions of presidents that are long dead already. I mean, aren't they already playing with the idea of projections of, say, other artists like a Michael Jackson performing live at concerts that's obviously dead already, but it looks so good you can barely tell it's just a projection and Michael's obviously not really there? I mean, that's a thing that's already happened. At least it did with Tupac, as seen here, right? Snoop Dogg actually had a concert recently, and out of nowhere, an AI version of Tupac emerged from the digital ether to congratulate Snoop Dogg on his success, and it looked like him, it sounded like him, it was Tupac. It's literally Johnny Silverhand in Cyberpunk 2077, but it's there for you, and that's crazy. I mean, they're even putting Tupac in that Stranger Than Heaven game with an AI voice. Like, this is happening. And I always kind of joke that in 50 years, they're going to have Avengers 35 come out in theaters, and Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man will star in it as he looked in 2008 in that debut Iron Man film, and he'll be acting in that movie as if he's still alive. Long after Downey kicks the bucket, right? With an AI Chris Evans beside him, Steve Rogers getting ready to fight whatever threat they're fighting. And it's going to look impossibly real too. I wouldn't even be surprised if Nintendo ends up digitizing Shigeru Miyamoto eventually too. Who knows? Maybe he's already dead and we don't know it. And Miyamoto is currently in the basement of Nintendo, hooked up to a giant computer, telling Nintendo how to make Super Mario and Zelda games. I mean, that's basically Mr. House from Fallout New Vegas, but you get the idea. The point here, besides the jokes until they're no longer jokes, is that the reason why the games industry is stuck in this infinite loop of remakes and reimaginings under these similar names is currently they don't have the knowledge of the people who built these games to shepherd their futures anymore. If Halo 343 Studio remakes every Bungie Halo, that will buy them somewhere probably close to, let's say, 10 or maybe 15 years of game release cycles by the time they inevitably get to Halo Reach's remake finally. That gives Halo Studios a decade and then some to figure out how to make a new Halo game while keeping their doors open and their wallets fatter than a Snorlax. But all this ends up doing is causing the games industry to just repeat the same cycles of consumerism nonsense ad nauseum. And it also means the industry as a whole will probably stagnate creatively too, because nothing new can or will be made in the AAA space that moves anything forward. The only place that this will happen is in AA or maybe indie at least, which if another idea, let's say Battle Royale like something like that emerges, the AAA guys are going to consume that idea like it's the last watermelon to ever be produced in Jamaica pretty much. Look, the point here is that what these AAA studios are doing is nothing short of cannibalizing their own talent. They're ruining their goodwill and forcing new things to never get made but the same reheated slop in the microwave over and over until the sun explodes. Halo getting review bombed and torn to pieces by their own players is not something unique to Halo itself. It's something that will and is coming for all franchises that refuse to evolve themselves before it's too late. I wish it wasn't like this. I wish we had more to Call of Duty than just Black Ops and Modern Warfare number 69, or more Metal Gear Solid remakes where nobody involved with these games are remaking them anymore. Who knows? Maybe when Halo Studios finally remakes Reach, they're just gonna remake Halo 1 again at that point. Hope you don't notice. And they'll call it a new beginning, rebrand the studio again, and that's pretty much it, right? Time is a flat circle, as one detective once said, but what do you think? Are we really just doomed to repeat the same things over and over again no matter what? Like, how does AAA get out of this? And what do you think about what id Software's producer guy said? Is AAA too locked in its ways to ever reasonably change anymore? Let me know. Thanks for being here. Subscribe if you want to. That's about it. I unironically do think that they will digitize Kojima though against his will. Like, did you know we're something like 50 years away from Cyberpunk 2077 being our reality? That's crazy, dude. Okay, I'm out of here. See ya.